So this is a how-to video, how you can structure your purpose. So when you're in a leadership position, how can you do that? And it goes a little bit deeper than the common perception of what is purpose. So there's a lot of written that purpose is a goal or purpose is meaning. That's all pointing in towards the right direction, but it doesn't give you the concreteness to start creating your purpose. So sit down and relax, and I'm gonna explain it to you in a couple of steps according this model. How can you do that? I'm Tom Orr. I'm active in leadership, talent, and career development since 2013. Many of the corporates have been buying my programs about working with purpose. And as you can see in my model, the deeper signature is that I merge my background in business and my background in, let's call it, deeper psychology. Okay. So the essence of purpose, and you see a lot of information here, is really getting to the core of your identity. Because when you understand the core of your identity, you understand your core power. And instead of doing many tasks, being pulled in many directions, you start to center your power in yourself. So the ego goes in many directions, or it doesn't move at all sometimes. And we're going beyond the ego, we're going towards the self, and then from the self we're going to structure what's really your the triangle of the self that you need to lock into yourself. So that means reflecting and sharpening until the triangle of the self fits. So the first point is you have to understand your deep drive. So when we're pulled in many directions by coping mechanisms, I want to help, I want to be assertive, I want to do things perfect. We're at a level that behavior, what we have learned in our youth, we need to get a level deeper. So when we get a level deeper, we start to reflect what's really the essence, what's really a deep drive of us. So I hear people, I'm passionate about mental health. I want to do something with children's psychology. I want to be an international mediator. So the first step is to get to the core of your deep drive, beyond coping mechanisms, intrinsic motivation, and focus it. The second point is to get to the core of your strength, because our drive needs to be directed in a direction which comes naturally to us. Now, there are many levels of strength, 5 levels. The basic levels, or let me explain it to you. The first level, you need to understand your strength and your weaknesses, but strengths is how you add value. So the first level of strength is to have a global idea of your 5 strengths. The second level would be to make it very concrete. So if we're talking about innovation, what do I do? What do I specific do? And then you make it very specific to your situation. So what do I do when I'm innovative? Do I merge information from different kinds of areas? Do I spot trends? So you start to make it very concrete for what it is that you do. And then the fourth level is how can you add value with your strengths? So you start thinking in a broad term, like a value creator. If this is my strength, how could I add value? The last point that locks the triangle of your core power is the self. So the self means beyond my ego perception, beyond the role that I play. So you could be a middle manager for a corporate, in data analysis or in finance, or you can be a creative one. Deep in your core, who are you? What's your archetype? Archetype is a good way to center yourself. And then when you combine the deep drive, the strength, and your sense of self, perhaps with an archetype, and perhaps also the pitfalls of your archetype, then you start to get a sense of the strength of who you are. So, how do you, yeah, who are you in essence? What's your strength? What's your deep drive? And if you align this, you start to feel internally a sense of joy, a sense of peace, and a sense of gratitude. And that has to do because you're very happy that you can stay close to your drive, strength, and who you are. And this is also a part of becoming. Now, we need to channel this triangle towards the higher triangle. So we have a sense of our power. Then we need to understand our vision. How do we create value? And what's our focus for this power? So the first center of the triangle of vision is innovation. So once we know what drives us, our strength and ourselves, we need to look into the world and understand the zeitgeist. Where do we want to focus our power? What's a problem that has been evolving? What do we see happening? What does the world need? And I often use a D-step method. So that's a tool to focus on demographics, economics, sociology, technology, ecology, and politics. And then you start to think about what are really the trends and where do I want to focus. And this helps you to stay relevant. Now, the next part is strategic insight. You need to channel the insights of the world into something that makes sense. So you need to focus on, let's say, on what kind of market am I going to focus? Is this an old market or a new market? Is this a blue ocean or a red ocean? Am I going for a market that's fully satisfied, or am I operating in towards a market that's emerging? What kind of competitors do I have? And how can I create value in my unique way? And yeah, I have many models to use it, but it's really understanding. Then you're going towards the concrete and how you add value, and then you bear in mind, of course, the lower triangle of your deep drive, strength, and self. The last part has to do with legacy. So legacy is the closing circle of the triangle of your vision. So legacy has to do, we can spot all kind of innovations in the world. We can think very strategic how to create value. But legacy, and we often have to walk in silence, legacy means what's really our task that we should do. So we have a task to fulfill, and this legacy is linked to yourself. So if you're deep in essence, for example, a creator, and you say, hey, I feel in silence that my legacy is creating educational material. Yeah, you cannot be a superb. Well, let me stop here. But it's giving you a line what you will be, and what's the deep willpower what you want to become. So legacy is the balancing act that you can think very strategic, but certain things are simply not for you because you're not staying true to your legacy. So legacy is really feeling the balancing between the innovation, the options you see, the strategic insight, and then the truth of the matter, what is really your task this life. And then you start to link the two triangles. So then you get your core power, which comes from your identity, your natural competitive advantage. Then you start channeling this power towards a core task, your vision. You're becoming inspiring, innovative because you're following the zeitgeist. You're thinking strategic, how to add value, and you're staying true to your legacy. And then you lock in purpose in yourself, in your purpose-driven leadership. And of course, then we can go to the outer circles, how we can integrate it into your life, how we can strengthen your capabilities in execution, and how we can strengthen it in your competitive advantage. And I won't be talking about it this video, but that can be in another video.